So these verses, this chapter of Bhishma Dev departing this world, and he's departing this world laying on a bed of arrows. You can't imagine such a thing, laying on a bed of arrows. If there's some hard object in our bed, we cannot tolerate that. But he's laying on a bed of arrows. And Srila Prabhupada will point out that although he is in this situation, not losing it, is still being a gentleman. He is being so polite, so caring, even though he's laying on a bed of arrows. This is a very real example for all of us, because we are experiencing every day or every week arrows. Adhyatmic, adhibodic, adhidaivic, the different miseries, adhibodic, the miseries of our own body, different pains that we have from the body, and our mind, especially from our mind. We have often emotional pain, adhibodic, from the other living entities. I don't know what bothersome entities. Sometimes dogs try to attack us. Some parts of the world, there are so many mosquitoes, wild animals. And adhidaivic, the weather, so cold or so hot. So we are constantly, all of us, being pierced by different arrows, just like but as Bhishma Dev is laying on a bed of arrows, all of us experience the arrows of living in this world, right? And we don't always do a good job. Sometimes it is said, I don't know how they say it in the UK, the person has woken up on the wrong side of the bed. They're not in a good mood, and they don't talk to us the same way. It could be our co-workers, our children, our wife, our husband. They're not in the right mind. Because we feel pain, we feel these arrows of adhyatmic, adhibodic, adhidaivic. And the point to Prabhupada, one point, very important point that Bhishma Dev is making, is that even though that we are devotees, we are on the path of being obedient to God, of being devoted to God. The Pandavas, the Sanskrit Dharma Nandana, the sons of religion, Maharaj Arjuna, Bhima, Nakula, Sade, Queen Kunti, they were so incredibly pious. Pious meaning with faith in God and close to God, Krishna. But then we ask the question, it is always asked. It has been asked for hundreds of years. It is a usual question. It is expected. And we have sometimes have asked this question in our own mind, or we will, that why am I, as a devotee, having so many troubles? Or why are my children, my husband, my wife, my friends, why are these devotees, just like in Bangladesh, there was that horrible terrorism. Why should that happen? I'm a good person. How can what does it mean that I'm protected by God? If I'm protected by God, then why are there such difficulties sometimes? It's a fair question, and we should not pretend that we don't have this question sometimes. We do. And it's a fair question. And Srila Prabhupada explains, and we learn who we are. You know, the dynamic is anyone, just like our children, or a child, if they expect something and they don't get it, they become disappointed. They're expecting that we're going to give them something on their birthday, or we're going to make them some food of some kind. So I'm making the point that disappointment, it comes from unrealized expectations. And the one very important question is, are my expectations realistic in Krishna consciousness? One of the major differences between mature devotion and neophyte devotion is understanding that being a devotee of God does not guarantee being comfortable all the time. It does not. And it won't. Look at Bhishma Dev. He is so religious. He's laying on a bed of arrows. The Pandavas, they lost everything, so insulted, and sent into the forest for 13 years. We can't imagine how difficult that was. And Bhishma Dev says in the verse, you did not deserve to remain alive under those tribulations, yet you were protected by the Brahmins, God, and religion. So what does that mean? That doesn't seem to make any sense, honestly, if we're honest, on one level. If they're protected by God, religion, and the Brahmins, why did they lose their kingdom? Why were they so insulted? Why were they attacked by the Kuru, their Kuru cousins, Duryodhana, and Dushashana, and Shakuni? What is that? So we learn from Bhagavad Gita, and we learn from the Vedas, other parts of the Vedic scripture, that we have a long history in this world. We may be nice now. We may be living a good life, following religious principles in this life, but what about our past life? Or even in this life? Some devotees don't have very good early part of their life. So these are minimized reactions. Just like in prison, the example is given that in a prison, there are prisoners who have better privileges. They have better living situation. Sometimes they're allowed to go out and work during the day, and then they come back to the prison. They're first-class prisoners because their behavior is very good, but they're still prisoners. And that's similar to us. me and you and all of us, we have a criminal history. And it's very, very important to remember that. And it's very, very important to honestly accept that. Because if we don't accept that we deserve, because of our past actions, the sufferings that we experience and the happiness, then we will blame God, we will blame Krishna, we will get upset with Krishna, we will lose faith in Krishna consciousness because our expectations are not realistic. I can share with you, as many people and many devotees can share with you, I mean, what is the meaning of my experience? We have Bhishma Dev, we have the Pandavas, but I can also share in my own tiny way on this path of bhakti for almost 50 years. And I won't go into details, but I've certainly had my share of struggle and suffering. If we think Krishna consciousness is meant to give us a pleasant life all the time, we're going to be deeply disappointed and we're going to lose faith. And this is true in every religion. Every religion. In Italy, during World War, they prayed to Jesus, may our husbands, may our sons come back safe. And they didn't. And they threw the pictures of Jesus in the trash. That, I mean, it's not, I mean, I empathize. I mean, I would be quite upset too. But it depends upon our expectations. So in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, there are some verses and some purports where Srila Prabhupada describes, advises us how we should think. I think it's text 6 and 8. And Srila Prabhupada instructs that a devotee, when we feel some challenges or some setbacks, we should think, this is less than I deserve. I definitely deserve to experience this. I have an opportunity to learn how not to do this same thing to someone else in the future. And in this way, the devotee can remain calm and patient. Just like Bhishma Dev, he's laying on a bed of arrows, but he's so calm. He's not thinking, I don't deserve this. I'm such a good person. This shouldn't be happening to me. And he's also so self-realized, understanding, realizing, knowing that he's not the body. So Srila Prabhupada gives instruction in that 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita how we can pass through difficult situations and remain as calm as possible. And then Srila Prabhupada describes that when the devotee gets something pleasant, whatever it is, whatever it may be, then the devotee feels very grateful. Oh, Krishna is so kind. So Krishna is always very kind to protect my Krishna consciousness. And ultimately, Krishna will always provide. There will always be a way that I can eat, I can sleep. It may not be exactly as I want, but I will have something to eat and a place to sleep. I will have what I need. And most important, Krishna will protect our devotion. As we know, the goal of life is not to live here forever comfortably. The goal of life is to live comfortably, but focused on going back to Godhead. And Krishna never falls asleep, helping us to go back to the spiritual world. Krishna will always do whatever he feels is best so that we remain awake. And for us, that often means some regular difficult situations so that we remember, number one, we remember this world is not the place to be. This world is not a place to live forever, comfortably, never. And the difficulties of our life give us the chance to practice remembering Krishna at the time of death. And we don't speak about death in a way that's morbid or so that people feel anxiety, but it is something that's going to happen. It is. It could happen today. Not to scare anyone, but it could. It's a real thing. And so we should be prepared for it. That's all. We prepare for going to school. We prepare for going to work in the morning. And so we should be prepared to transfer at the time of death, because it is going to happen. And so each difficult situation that we have, whether it's a headache, an argument with our wife or coworker or husband, whether it's a money difficulty, a job difficulty, a country difficulty, a terrorist difficulty, we have a chance, an opportunity to practice remembering Krishna, so that at the time of leaving this world will be practiced. If you think about it, it will actually work. Some of us are young, in our 20s or 30s, maybe 40s. And leaving this world sometimes seems, we don't think about it because we're young, but it will happen. And if we spend our life practicing to remember Krishna, we will remember Krishna. We will be able, like Bhishma Dev, or something like Bhishma Dev, to keep our mind fixed on Krishna and go back to the spiritual world, to break free from the cycle of birth and death. And therefore, these difficulties that we have every day are good. They're actually good. They're helping us to prepare for the best result at the end of this life. So we can actually, from one perspective, people may think we're crazy, but we can actually be cheerful or more cheerful about the difficulties, just like an athlete who has to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and 10 miles. They don't like to do that, but it's an opportunity to prepare for, suppose, the Olympics or to win some medal. So they feel a little happy inside that I don't like to run 10 miles, but might win the gold medal. So it's profitable. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we all have experience. I was on set distributing books. I ran over by a truck. It ran over my leg. I was in the hospital for 3 weeks. It was very challenging. And I remembered this instruction of Srila Prabhupada. And I was able to experience that, not like Bhishma Dev, but with a lot less suffering inside, and that's very good. And I think that's something we can be very appreciative of. And the Pandavas also, even though the Pandavas, some people, the Pandavas were exiled and they were attacked in so many ways, but actually they didn't suffer as much as we may think. That doesn't mean it wasn't difficult, but the suffering of a devotee, a real devotee who's focused on Krishna, it's less. Look at Bhishma Dev. He's actually cheerful. Our Srila Prabhupada, ISKCON founder Acharya, the last 6 months of his being here, the doctors could not believe it. He was talking and clear-headed and calm. He was loving, caring, because he was so self-realized and Krishna conscious. So I think we have the best life, that we can have the most peace, the most inner strength than any human can hope for, depending on our sadhana. And at the end of this life, we have every possibility of returning back to the spiritual world. Does anyone have any questions at this point or discussion before we finish with the last verse? We want to ask some questions, have some discussion. Am I still online?
Yes, Prabhu. It looks
Karuna
like
Chaitanya?
yes, Prabhu. It looks like everyone is satisfied. No questions.
Okay, well, let's finish up with the text.
Sure, Prabhu. I'll read the text 13. संस्थिते तीरथे पाण्डौ वृथा बालप्रजावधूः युष्मत् युष्मत्कृते बहून् क्लेशान् प्राप्ता कवती मुहुः. Word by word translation. Samsthite, after the demise, Atirathe, of the great general, Pandav, Pandu, Pratha, Kunti, Bala Praja, having young children, Vadhuhu, my daughter-in-law, Yushmat Krite, on your account, Bahun, multifarious, Kleshan, afflictions, Prapta, underwent, Tokavati, in spite of having grown-up boys, Muhuhu, constantly. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. As far as my daughter-in-law Kunti is concerned, upon the great General Pandu's death, she became a widow with my children, and therefore she suffered greatly. And when you were grown up, she suffered a great deal also because of your actions. Purport. The sufferings of Kunti Devi are doubly lamented. She suffered greatly because of early widowhood and to get her minor children brought up in the royal family. And when her children were grown up, she continued to suffer because of her son's actions. So her sufferings continued. This means that she was destined to suffer by providence, and this one has to tolerate without being disturbed.
So this is what we were discussing. Same point. We have to tolerate, and we practice. It takes practice, and we have to have our sadhana, good sadhana, and essentially understanding Bhagavad Gita, following the basic sadhana of our chanting and rising early, eating pure food stuff offered to Krishna, and associating with the pure devotees. Sometimes devotees ask, well, how can I associate with pure devotees? I live here or I live there. They're in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. There's so many pure devotees in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Bhagavad Gita. We have the association of
Hare Krishna 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 Hare
ISKCON.
Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama.
Someone is chanting. I can hear someone chanting.
Yes, Prabhu, I've muted the devotee.
Oh, okay.
Unmute,
yeah.
Sorry,
So if we simply follow the instructions of Lord Krishna and Srila Prabhupada as carefully as possible, then like the Pandavas, we will cross over this ocean of material existence. So I turn it back over to you if there's any questions or discussion.
Thank you, Prabhu. I request all the devotees to come forward and share their comments, realizations, or ask any questions, this is a wonderful opportunity. We have Dean Sharan Prabhu, who's a great speaker who's spent so much time answering questions of devotees, counseling them. So I request devotees to come forward.
Any doubts or challenges?
Prabhu, I have a question. Prabhupada says here in the purport that Kunti Maharani went through so much of troubles when her children were young, and when children were grown up, she continued to suffer because of her son's actions. So, what does it mean? Were the actions of her sons not right? Because of is that because yeah, is that the reason she had to suffer, or is it because of her because of the good actions of her sons she had to suffer?
As I understand it, do you have children?
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah, 2 daughters.
So if your daughters suffer in any way, you feel pain, right?
Yes, yes, Prabhu.
Yeah. So imagine Queen Kunti and her 5 sons, the sentence reads because of their actions, but how their life was unfolding, she was mortified. You can imagine. So in that way, that's I understand it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and that's difficult. And as parents, or as any kind of administrator, sometimes we care for people that are in our care, and we give them advice, so we wish they could have less suffering. And we realize we're not in control. Sometimes we can just give our prayers and watch how life unfolds for someone. That's a hard one.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Manu Prabhu, do you have any questions?
Hare Krishna, Dina Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All grace to Prabhupada. Prabhuji, you made a very wonderful point towards the end that we can associate with pure devotees in Chaitanya Charitamrita and Srimad Bhagavatam. And although this is a great fortune for us, but somehow our minds are very turbulent. We're chasing our desires, trying to figure out how we can be comforted in some way or the other, and then we will have some time in the future. Our mind is tricking us and projecting us some sort of ideal future, wherein we will get this ideal time to sit and read Srila Prabhupada books and some sort of euphoric world. So we're getting tricked very badly all the time. So I was wondering that how do we fix ourselves that thinking that this is the time that we have and we haven't got any other time in the future, and how we then just completely focus and give ourselves and surrender to Srila Prabhupada's books. So this is my question, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I think you're on mute. We can't hear you.
So my question is done, so I'm waiting for Prabhu to kindly
Yeah,
respond.
yes, by associating with pure devotees and by associating together like that, we just have to do it. Everything is there by our hearing. we just make a commitment that I'm going to hear about Krishna and hear about Krishna consciousness every day, whether it's for 5 minutes or 5 hours. And nowadays, we can download audio to our phones and our computers. There's so many thousands of lectures and kirtans. There's no reason why we can't be hearing something. The more we hear, Shravanam Kirtanam. So we become fixed by associating with those who are fixed. And prayer, that's the other part of it. Certainly, that's our chanting. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. When we see that we're lacking, we should turn to Krishna. We should turn to our spiritual master. We should turn to Tulsi Devi and pray. Please help me. I don't have this thing. That's all. Very simple. I don't have the strength. I don't have this interest. I don't have the time. Please help me. And we will receive help.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Thank you.
We're going to win. We're going to win because we have Krishna and the pure devotees. We just have to hang on. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you for the good question. Good question. What did Srila Prabhupada say in the 7 principles, the 7 purposes of ISKCON? One of the purposes of ISKCON is to bring the members of the society closer together and nearer to Krishna. So we stay close. And when we have some question or difficulty, we talk to each other. What do you think I should do? So I hope everyone knows about this website, ISKCONDesiretree.com. ISKCONDesiretree.com. Tens of thousands of audio, visual. And then there's another website, gitabase.com. You can download all the books to your phone. So that's a good thing to share.
Sure, Prabhuji. Thank you.
There's one more devotee who raised hand. Princey, the name is Princey. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, Hare Krishna. My question was very similar to Manuji, and the other question I have is like, I'm a mom of teenagers, and sometimes, and I'm very new to this world, and sometimes I lose my patience, and I always remind myself every day, I am not going to lose my patience with her, but I just lose it because obviously she's a teenager, she's going through that change.
Yes.
So is there any tips for me to how to?
Well, one of the first things is to forgive yourself. Yeah. Meaning, don't beat yourself up. As devotees, we should know when we can do better, but we shouldn't hate ourselves, or we should be kind to ourselves. That I am imperfect, and I'm trying my best, and I am going to make mistakes. And Krishna is so understanding. He's so understanding. He's not like some of us humans who are so quick to criticize. He is so full of love, Krishna, which doesn't mean, of course, we take that. I say this so that we remind ourselves we don't become depressed, or we consciousness. I'm so imperfect. I fall down into this, and I make this. Yeah, we're going to fall down sometimes. We're going to make mistakes, and Krishna loves us, and we should love ourselves. Yeah, we should love ourselves. We should never hate ourselves. But practice. Arjuna asked that question in the Bhagavad Gita. In the 6th chapter, Arjuna says, Lord Krishna, you tried to me about this path of yoga, but I can't do it. It seems impossible. And Lord Krishna replies that by practice, that's what he says, by practice and by following the method. So there's a method to get patience. There's a method to keep our head.
Okay, thank you.
Well, let me continue. The method is to pay attention to our sadhana. The basic, as best as we can, rising early and chanting and puja to Krishna and Tulsi, Guru. Just the basic sadhana, paying attention to our chanting, especially as best as you can. When you chant, you listen carefully to each syllable and you call out to Krishna that I don't have the strength, please help me.
Yeah.
But it is challenging. Do the best, we do the best we can. Yeah. Very good question.
Thank you, Dina.
Our sadhana, practically everything. If we have, Srila Prabhupada would say that again and again, almost every letter he would talk following. We should also think about our lifestyle. Are we exercising every day? Are we eating the right kind of diet so that we can keep our good health? We need good health. Basic things like that, not just spiritual. Are we exercising? Are we drinking lots of water every day? Are we getting good rest? Those kinds of things. Any other question or discussion? Are we still connected?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, we are still connected.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Din Sharan Prabhu. I think.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your wonderful class, wonderful realizations that has helped us understand these verses and also the answers to the questions.
Yes,
His Grace Din Sharan Prabhu.
I wish everyone a brilliant day and a brilliant week. All glories to Shri Gauranga. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu.